There are two things that are currently a bit troubling about the DJI Pocket 3. The first one is a complete rumor. I don't know why this is even said, but a lot of people are out there telling you you can't get it. I live in the middle of nowhere, Montana. I can get this in a day. I can get it from multiple places. I can get it from Walmart. I can get it from Best Buy. I can get it from Amazon, and I can get it directly from DJI and overnight it to me. So I don't know if these people are being paid by other competitors or what, but that is not scarce at all. The other thing too is they're saying DJI jacked up the prices. That's incorrect. In fact, it's from a domestic tax that we're putting on called a now that we got that out of the way, it is still expensive. $900 for that. I probably wouldn't buy it again. I think there's other cameras out there that if you're a beginner or you're looking for something like in that moderate range, I would probably steer you away from that in most situations. If you are someone that's going to be moving a lot and you're worried about stability, yeah, that's probably still your best way to go. But I still think with some software that they now have, like Catalyst Browse from Sony, there's a lot of other different stabilization software, and you can get away with using, maybe something that has digital stabilization, or maybe even better if it has in-body stabilization. But once we start talking about in-body stabilization, especially from like Sony and stuff, you start pushing into the $1,500 realm, $2,000 realm now, probably with the tariffs. So I wanted to give you some cheaper alternatives that you could pick up used. Obviously, if you can get that used, I would buy this all day for $500. That's how much I think of it. Remember, you're looking at a 2.0 constant aperture. You're looking at 4K 120, up to 4K 120 on that thing. The only drawback is that you can't interchange the lenses. So you're pretty much stuck in this pretty wide view, which means that you just have to get close to your subject and everything else. And that's not always ideal, especially for like B-roll, or if you're trying to catch people in their natural habitat that you don't want them to know they're being filmed, for example, so that they don't overreact. So with the Pocket 3, you really have to be in people's faces. And now at the $900 price point for the Creative Combo, yeah, typically comes with a really awesome microphone, which is another beautiful thing. At $700, it made sense to me. At $900, it really doesn't. I would recommend you looking at something like what I'm shooting on now. And this is the Sony ZV-E10. I'm not even on the ZV-E10 Mark II. This is ZV-E10. I got it used for $500. I threw on a lens that I got for $120, and boom, I think it looks absolutely phenomenal. I can shoot an S-Log. Now, this doesn't have great slow motion, but I think for a studio camera, or if you're not interested in slow motion, you're only going to be able to shoot 4K 30 frames per second. If you want anything else, you drop it down to 1080 if you want 60 frames per second. So I don't think this is necessarily a slow motion camera, but it certainly is a studio level camera that I adore. It's small, it's compact. I use it more often than not, especially here in the studio. Now, the other camera that I use out in the field, this is going to seem crazy to some of you all, but I have a frame on this from I guess this is probably a small rig. This is called U-Rig. It's a knockoff competitor. It's very, very tiny, and this is the ZV-1. So they have the ZV-1 Mark II. This is ZV-1. So this just means that you could probably pick this up for really, really cheap. It's not going to shoot great slow motion either. I mean, it shoots great slow motion. You're going to be in 1080. I think in 960 frames per second, which is ultra slow, but you're at 1080. It's going to shoot 4K 24, 25 per, depending if you're PAL or not, 30 frames per second. It has all those frame rates, but you're not going to get that slow motion. But it also has a built-in lens. But this built-in lens has the ability to optical zoom. So you can optically zoom this in and out, which is great because I don't really like digital zoom for the same reason I don't really like digital stabilization. It just really isn't that good. I can tell it reduces the quality. It's not that great. Anytime I do a zoom on a lot of cameras, I'll do it in post. It's all in one, so it's a point and shoot. I really do like this camera. You can probably find this thing for like $300. And look how small it is. I mean, this is like my run and gun. The stability is not good in this. It's okay. I'm not gonna say it's okay. Again, digital stability, it's not going to be like an upper end camera. Remember, this is quite old, but I highly recommend this as well as an alternative to a Pocket 3. Now, the ZV-E10, that has decent stability as well. Again, it's going to be digital, but these cameras, if you really wanted to do anything, you were worried about it, you'd want to put on a gimbal, which then pushes it up past this price typically. So, you really need to consider your use case on these things. Think about $900. I can pick up a used ZV-E10 for what, like, probably like $500. And then, I could get another $400 worth of lenses, which means I could probably get 2 or 3 lenses on the used market. So it's very compelling. The ZV-E10 really isn't that bulky. It's not weather sealed, but it's a bit more rugged than that. It has this mechanical gimbal and flip up screen, just a lot of moving parts on that, whereas the ZV-E10 doesn't. And then of course the ZV-1, I take this everywhere. I knock this around almost like an action camera just because I know it's pretty cheap, but the results are quite stunning out of this camera. Yeah, if you're a beginner, initially in 2024, before all this tariff madness, I had said, this is the way to go, and it is. I mean, when you see this thing and the shallow depth of field and everything that it offers, especially if you get the Creator combo with the mic, it's kind of like you just get that and you're ready to start a channel. Which, by the way, I don't really think the Mark II is worth upgrading from the ZV-1. Maybe if you find it at a comparable price, but if you're going to save $200-300, I would go this route. I can't speak more about this camera. I really like it. But again, you're going to have the stability issue, whereas that's going to be a lot better. So, I'm not bringing into the discussion one of my other favorite cameras, which is the DJI Action 4 and 5. I like them both, only because I think it's just a whole different realm, right? These cameras are going to give you that depth of field. They're going to be much better for portrait. They're going to be much better all around, whereas an action camera is just designed to have everything in focus. Like, that's its main mission. So I think action cameras in this discussion aren't really relevant, even though oftentimes it's kind of a toss-up which one I bring. But when I do bring this one, let's say out in my boat or fishing, I've even brought it snowboarding. I mean, those are the risks I'm willing to take. I understand one fall, that thing's done. If I fall with this thing, my ribs are probably done. I keep it right here. So I imagine my ribs would break before this would break. So, you're not going to ride with this per se, but taking it out, filming your, friends on the lift, or, taking out your fishing vest or your hiking pack and being able to film and just hold it, do a pan, or just still film it, or put it on a tripod. I think this is a quite compelling option, and especially out in the field. But again, it's so much different than something like an action camera. So anyways, I hope that helps you understand a bit more of this like mid-range roundup. But I wanted you to be aware not only of why we're seeing this price increase for the Pocket 3, but now that since we have seen this price increase, I don't necessarily know if I would automatically push you towards the Pocket 3. I think these older cameras that I talked about are quite compelling. They're going to end up costing you less. There's also a Canon out there, the EOS R, I think something. I'm not really a Canon guy, but it's pretty comparable. You can see there's a lot of comparisons between the ZV-E1 Mark II and the new Canon point and shoot, even their new PowerShot. Now those cameras are going to give you a little bit better slow motion, but there's some drawbacks. I don't own it, so I don't feel right talking about it. I've only seen probably what you can see on the internet. So don't think that I'm pushing you towards Sony either. It's just my preferred ecosystem, and I like to keep it all together. So I just shoot in Sony and DJI pretty much, and that just keeps it all simple for me. And the reason I bring in DJI is because it's my preferred action camera, but it's also my preferred drone. You can see my drone up there. If I can have them all in the same ecosystem, that's gonna be a lot easier for me when I go into post-processing, editing. They're both gonna have the same style, and S-Log, D-Log, they're different, but I've found that it's pretty easy to color match those things. So I think that's another thing if you're going to have multiple cameras you need to consider. Anyways, I hope this helps you, especially if you're looking for one of these mid-range budget cameras. My name's Hill Phantom. I'll see you next time.